My name is Eugene, I'm 77 years old, and I want to tell you a story that began with a phone call at 3 in the morning. It was my younger brother Stephen calling. He was 62 at the time, but his voice sounded like a teenager caught red-handed. Eugene, I need money, urgently, 20,000 by Monday or I'm finished. I sat up in bed. Barbara, my wife, woke up and looked at me with that expression I'd seen hundreds of times, an expression that said, again, again. Because this wasn't the first call, not the 10th, not the 50th. Over 60 years, Stephen had borrowed more from me than I can count. He never returned a single cent. Every time, a crisis, urgent, life and death. Every time I gave. But that night something was different. Maybe because I had just turned 70 and for the first time seriously thought about death. Maybe because Barbara was looking at me as if she knew something I didn't yet know. I said, no, Stephen, not this time. Silence, a long silence. And then he started screaming. About how I was betraying the family, that Mom would turn over in her grave. That he's my brother, my own blood. How could I hung up, turned off the phone, and never spoke to him again. That was 7 years ago. And for you to understand why I did what I did, I need to tell you everything from the beginning. There were 4 of us. I, the eldest, born in 1947, Daniel 3 years younger, Margaret another 2 years younger, and Stephen, the youngest, a full 8 years younger than me. We grew up in a small mining town in Pennsylvania. Dad worked underground, Mom at home with us. Money was always tight, but we didn't go hungry. A typical working-class family of the 50s, but there was one thing that defined our entire lives: the roles our parents gave us. I was 8 when Mom first said, Eugene, you're the oldest. You're responsible for the younger ones. 8 years old, I was still a child myself. But from that day I stopped being one. When Daniel broke the neighbor's window with a ball, Dad beat me. Why weren't you watching your brother? When Margaret got lost in the storm, Mom screamed at me. Where were your eyes? When Stephen got sick because he ran outside without a hat, I was to blame. You should have been watching him. I was a child responsible for other children. And no one ever once asked if this was okay with me, if I wanted this. If it was hard for me. Daniel figured it out quickly. He could do whatever he wanted. Eugene would answer for it. And he used this to the fullest. Stole money from Mom's purse. Eugene got punished. Skipped school. Eugene had to explain to the teachers. Came home drunk at 16. Eugene had to cover for him. And I stayed silent. Because that's how it should be, because I'm the oldest, because family. When I was 22, I married Barbara and moved to Philadelphia. I thought, that's it, I'm free, new city, new life, no brothers and sisters, naive. The first call from Stephen came 3 months after my wedding. He was 14. Eugene, I need money for a school trip. Mom says there isn't any. You can help, right? I sent it. Of course I sent it. He's my brother after all. That was the first seed. Over 60 years, it grew into a tree that drained everything from me. Daniel started drinking at 25. On my 28th birthday, he came to our place, made a scene, broke a vase that Barbara had received from her grandmother. When I tried to stop him, he hit me. My younger brother hit me on my birthday in front of my pregnant wife. What did I do? I forgave him because he wasn't himself. Because Mom called and cried. He's so unhappy, he has depression, support him, you're the oldest. I supported him, drove him to rehab 3 times, paid for treatment. Picked him up from the police station when he got caught driving drunk. Lied to his wives, he had 3 marriages, that everything would be fine. Nothing was fine. Daniel drank his whole life, still drinks as far as I know. But it's no longer my problem. Margaret was different. She didn't ask for money, didn't make scenes, she just didn't see me. When we talked, it was always about her. Her children, her work, her problems, her successes. If I tried to tell her something about myself, she'd interrupt within 30 seconds. Yes, but listen to what happened to me. Once I conducted an experiment. I decided to count how many minutes she could listen about me before steering the conversation back to herself. The record, 43 seconds. 43 seconds, and she was already talking about her daughter who got into a prestigious university, and what I wanted to tell her, that my son had been diagnosed with heart problems, remained unspoken. I hung up and thought, we're strangers, just strangers who happen to be born in the same family. And Stephen was talented at turning his life into a catastrophe and finding someone to pay for it. 6 businesses, all failed, 2 marriages, both ended in alimony lawsuits that he didn't pay, 3 children, none of whom he raised properly, and every time Eugene saved me, 2005, I'm 58, Stephen calls in a panic. The bank is taking his house. He needs $50,000 to cover the debt. Barbara says, "Don't give it. That's our retirement savings." Mom calls, "Eugene, he's your brother. He'll end up on the street. How will you live with that?" I gave the money. Saved his house. 2 years later, he sold that house and spent the money on another business idea that also failed. 50,000, 5 years of our savings went to nothing. Barbara didn't speak to me for 3 days. Then she said, "Eugene, I love you, but if you give him money one more time, I don't know if I can survive it." I promised, and broke that promise 3 more times before I finally stopped. 2015. Mom is 88, lung cancer. I came to see her every week. 3 hours drive each way. Took her to doctors, sat through chemotherapy, held her hand when she felt bad. Daniel came twice the entire year, once drunk. The second time to ask for money while I was at the hospital with Mom. Margaret came 4 times, each time for a few hours, brought flowers, took photos with Mom for Facebook, drove back. Stephen didn't come once. Called sometimes, said he wasn't emotionally ready to see Mom sick. He needed time, and I was there every week, every difficult night on the phone, every treatment decision, every hospital bill. Mom died in May 2016, quietly in her sleep. I was beside her, holding her hand. At the funeral, Daniel gave a speech. 10 minutes about how close he was with Mom, how she understood him, how he loved her, how he would miss her. I sat and listened. The person who came twice in a year, talking about a special bond. The person who didn't pay a single hospital bill, accepting condolences. After the funeral, we sat at Mom's house. We needed to decide what to do with the house, with the things. I suggested selling and splitting the money equally. Daniel said, "I need a bigger share, I have debts." Margaret said, "I want Mom's jewelry, all of it. I'm the only daughter." Stephen, who didn't come once while Mom was dying, called and said, "Eugene, I think it would be fair if you gave up your share. You're the wealthiest of us." I sat in Mom's kitchen, listened to all this, and felt something breaking inside. Not my heart, something deeper, some mechanism that for 60 years had forced me to endure. I said, "We sell the house, split equally, jewelry to Margaret. My share goes to a college fund for the grandchildren, that's all," and I left. Over the next 4 years, I gradually pulled away, called less often, responded less often, said no to requests for money, didn't go to family gatherings. And with each step back, I found it easier to breathe. And then came that call, 3 in the morning, "Stephen. 20,000 by Monday," and I said no, a final, irreversible no. The next day I wrote 3 letters, short, without accusations. To Daniel, "I wish you all the best, but I will no longer be part of your life. Don't call." To Margaret, "We were never close. I see no point in pretending otherwise. Live your life." To Stephen, "For 60 years you only took. This is the end." The reaction was predictable. Daniel left drunk voicemails, threats, insults, then tears and pleading. I deleted them without listening. Margaret wrote a 10-page letter about how shocked she was and what a horrible person I am. I didn't finish reading it. Stephen told the entire family that I'm a monster. Cousins, aunts, everyone called with lectures. I didn't answer. After 3 months silence, they gave up. The first year was the hardest. Guilt came in waves. The voice in my head, Mom's voice, said, "They're your family, how can you?" But there was another voice, Barbara's, which said, "You're finally free." And the voice of my body, which for the first time in 20 years didn't ache from stress. Blood pressure normalized. Insomnia disappeared. The migraines that had tormented me for years stopped. It turns out my body knew everything, felt everything. I just wasn't listening. Now I listen. 7 years have passed. I haven't seen my brothers and sister once. And you know what? My life hasn't become poorer, it's become easier. I have Barbara, 54 years together. She's my real family. I have my son Thomas and daughter Rachel. They call to talk, not to ask for things. They're interested in my life. They love me not for what I do for them, but for who I am. I have 5 grandchildren. They run to me when I visit. They hug me not because they have to, because they want to. This is family, not biology, love. My brothers and sister, they're people I shared a childhood with. Nothing more, we were never close. Never supported each other the way family should. We just shared a last name. Blood doesn't guarantee love. A shared past doesn't guarantee closeness. Family is a choice you make every day. The choice to be there, to support, to see. They didn't make that choice. I did for 60 years. And then I stopped. And this is the best decision of my life. Sometimes people ask me, "Don't you regret it? Aren't you lonely?" no, and no. No regrets, because these 7 years have been the most peaceful. For the first time in my entire life, I'm not waiting for a call with another crisis. Not counting the money I gave away and will never see again. Not feeling used after every conversation. Not lonely, because my life is full of people. Real people who love me. A month ago, Thomas said to me, "Dad, thank you." I asked, "For what?" He said, "For showing me that you can choose your peace." I set boundaries too. With my mother-in-law, who had been poisoning our marriage for years. And you know what? The marriage got better, the kids calmer, my lesson became his lesson. Maybe it will become yours too, if you have relatives who only take, who don't see you as a person, who only call in a crisis, who don't remember your birthday but remember your bank account number. You don't have to put up with it. Family isn't a prison, blood isn't chains. You have the right to choose who you spend your life with, even if it means giving up people you shared a childhood with. My name is Eugene. I'm 77 years old. 7 years ago, I chose my peace over a toxic family. And each of these 7 years is a gift I gave to myself for the first time in 60 years. Take care, and remember, your life is yours. Don't give it to those who don't know how to appreciate it, even if they're family, especially if they're family. There's something else I want to tell you about the moment that convinced me once and for all. A year after I cut off contact, my cousin Mark called me. We were never close, but he's a neutral party, not caught up in our dramas. He said, "Eugene, I saw Stephen last week. He was talking about you." I said, "I can imagine, what about?" Mark said, "He said you betrayed the family over money, that you've always been greedy, that Mom always said you were cold and heartless." I was silent, because what do you say to that? Mark continued, "I didn't believe it. Because I remember who drove Aunt to the doctors, who paid for treatment, who sat with her in hospice." And then he said something I'll never forget. "Eugene, I always wondered how you put up with it. They used you your whole life. Everyone could see it. No one just said anything. Everyone could see. No one said anything. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining the problem. Everyone saw what was happening. It's just that culture says stay silent. Family is sacred. Don't air dirty laundry." And I was the dirty laundry being aired. Mark said one more thing. "Stephen is now borrowing from cousin Jenny. She'll figure it out soon too." And I thought, some people don't change. They just find a new victim. A few more years passed. I hear news through Mark, the only one I still occasionally talk to. Daniel's still drinking, lives alone, his kids don't talk to him. Margaret fine, as far as I know. We're strangers, always were strangers. Stephen bankrupt again, borrowed from cousin Jenny, from Aunt Susan, from everyone who still believed. Didn't pay anyone back. Do I feel sorry for them? A little, not because they deserve pity, because they're people. People who made their own lives this way. But pity isn't an obligation to save. You can sympathize from a distance. You can wish them well without participating. This is what I learned over these years. Compassion doesn't mean sacrifice. I want to tell you about one evening that happened 3 years after the break. Barbara and I were sitting on the porch. Summer evening, crickets, sunset, nothing special. She suddenly says, "Eugene, you've changed." I ask, "Changed how?" She says, "Lighter. Before you were always tense, as if waiting for a blow. Now no." I thought about it and realized she was right. For 60 years I lived in a state of waiting for the next crisis, the next call at 3 in the morning, the next demand, request, accusation. Now I don't wait, the phone rings and I don't flinch. I pick up the receiver and it's my son, daughter, grandchildren, friends, people who call because they want to talk, not because they need something. It's so strange to live without fear, to live without expecting pain. Barbara says, "For the first time, I'm seeing the real you, after 50 years of marriage." That's what that family stole from me. Not just money, not just time. They stole the real me. The Eugene who hid behind duty, behind a role, behind the fear of letting people down. Now he's back. Last year, Barbara and I went to Italy for the first time in our lives. We always wanted to, but the money went to Stephen's next crisis or Daniel's rehabilitation. Rome, Florence, Venice, 3 weeks, the best trip of our lives. I stood in St. Mark's Square, held Barbara's hand and thought, why so late? Why didn't we do this in our 40s, 50s, 60s? And the answer, because I didn't give myself permission. There was always someone who needed the money more. There was always some crisis that was more important. Now the crises are over because I left the game. At Christmas, the kids come with the grandchildren. A full house, laughter, chaos. Barbara makes turkey from her grandmother's recipe. I play board games with the grandchildren. No tension, no expectation of who will call with another drama. Thomas asks, "Dad, aren't you sad that we don't see the uncles?" I say, "No, son, because you are my family. They're people from the past." He understands. He saw everything from inside, saw how I came back after calls from my brothers, empty, guilty, broken. Rachel says, "Dad, I'm proud of you. You showed me that you can choose yourself." My children don't judge, they understand. And this is the best gift. One more story. 2 years ago, my grandson Ethan, he was 13 at the time, asks, "Grandpa, why do we never see your brothers?" I thought for a long time about how to explain. Then I said, "Ethan, imagine you have a friend. He constantly asks you for things, your toys, your money, your time. But when you need help, he's never there. When you tell him something, he doesn't listen. When you celebrate your birthday, he forgets. Is that a real friend?" He says, "No." I say, "That's right. Sometimes people who are called family act the same way, and you're not obligated to put up with it just because they're relatives." He thought and says, "But everyone says family is the most important thing." I say family is those who love you, who see you, who are happy when you're doing well and sad when you're doing badly. Sometimes these are blood relatives, sometimes not. You choose who to call family. He says, "So you chose us." I say, "I chose you a long time ago, and this is the best choice of my life." He hugged me, and I thought, this is it, the real thing, not obligation, not guilt, love. I want to end with where I started, that call at 3 in the morning. "Stephen, 20,000 by Monday, life and death." I said no then, and it was the first time in 60 years that I chose myself, not selfishness, not cruelty, just the realization I also have the right to a life, to peace, to money I earned, to time I have left. For 60 years I gave, now I live, and you know what? The world didn't collapse. Stephen somehow survived without my money. Daniel somehow manages without my rescuing. Margaret somehow exists without my attention. They could always manage without me. It was just more convenient for them with me. And for me, uncomfortable, painful, empty, now easy. I'm 77. How much time I have left, I don't know. Maybe 5 years, maybe 15. But these years are mine. For the first time in my life, mine. And I'm not going to give them to anyone. My name is Eugene. I chose myself. Late, maybe, but better late than never. And if you're now where I was 7 years ago, trapped in toxic relationships in the role of the eternal rescuer, know this, there is a way out. Not easy, not painless, but there is. You have the right to peace. You have the right to your life. You have the right to say no, say it, and live. Because life is too short to waste on those who don't know how to love. One last thing I want to share. A week ago, a woman called me. A stranger found my number through someone we know. She was crying. She said, "My brother asked for money again, for the 3rd time this year. Every time he promises it's the last time. Every time he doesn't pay back." I listened. She said, "I can't say no. He's my brother after all. Mom says family must stick together, that I'm betraying them if I refuse." I asked, "And what do you want?" She fell silent, then said, "I want him to stop calling. I want to not be afraid of the phone. I want to live my life, not save his." I said, "So why don't you do that?" She said, "Because I'm afraid, because everyone will judge me, because I'll feel like a monster." And I told her what I wanted to hear myself 60 years ago. You're not a monster. You're a person who has the right to boundaries. Family is not an obligation to suffer. Love is not an unlimited bank account. You can love your brother from a distance, wish him well from a distance, not participate in his chaos, and still not be a monster. She cried even more, but these were different tears, not from pain, from relief. She said, "No one has ever told me that." I said, "Now I have. Do with it what you will." I don't know if she listened. I don't know if she told her brother no. That's her life, her decision. But I know she heard that anyone told her the truth. The truth I searched for 60 years. Maybe you're searching for it too. Maybe you're sitting now and thinking, this is about me. Maybe you have your own Stephen, your own Daniel, your own Margaret. Then listen, you don't have to put up with it. You don't have to rescue. You don't have to give yourself piece by piece to people who don't know how to be grateful. Your life is yours. Your time is yours. Your money is yours. Your peace is yours. No one has the right to these until you give that right. Not even family, especially family, because strangers rarely hurt as deeply as family. Strangers don't know your weaknesses, don't know how to manipulate, don't know where it hurts. Family knows. And some family uses it. If your family is like that, you have the right to protect yourself. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, out of love for yourself, because you too deserve love, attention, peace from yourself first and foremost. My name is Eugene, I'm 77 years old. I lived 60 years for others, now I live for myself. And if I were asked was it worth it, I would say it was. Every minute of peace is worth those years of pain. Every morning without fear is worth those nights of anxiety. Every hug from a grandchild is worth all the money I gave away. Because now I'm here, really here, not in a role, not in obligation. Not in a trap, here, free, mine, I wish you the same, the freedom to be yourself, the peace to live your life. The courage to say no, it's possible, I'm proof, take care. And remember you are enough, just as you are, without sacrifices, without suffering, without endlessly rescuing those who don't want to be saved. Just you, that's enough. It always was enough. Believe it. And live. P.S. Yesterday Barbara asked Eugene if Stephen called tomorrow and said he was dying, would you go? I thought for a long time. Then I said, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to say, no, he's said so many times that he was dying to get money. Why should I believe him this time? Part of me wants to say, yes, because death changes everything. Because how will I live with myself if he dies and I didn't come? But there's a third part, the one that says, this isn't about him, it's about me, about who I want to be, about what I want to live with. And that part says, if he really is dying, I'd probably go, not for him, for myself, to close the loop, for peace. But that doesn't mean I have to communicate with him now. Doesn't mean I have to tolerate his manipulations. Doesn't mean I have to return to the role of rescuer. It means I'm human, with all the contradictions. With all the complexity. And that's okay, you can be contradictory too. You can simultaneously love and keep distance, wish well and not participate, forgive and not return. Life isn't black and white, and relationships aren't either. Do what gives you peace, even if it's hard to explain to others, even if it's hard to explain to yourself. Your peace is your compass, listen to it. It knows the way. My name is Eugene, I'm 77 years old, I'm still learning. But I already know the main thing, living is a choice. Choose yourself, take care. You know what Barbara said after that conversation. She said, Eugene, in 54 years of marriage, I'm seeing for the first time how you think about your needs. Not about duty, not about what others will say, about yourself. I said, is that bad? She laughed, it's wonderful, finally, and she hugged me. This is what freedom from toxic family gives you, not loneliness, not emptiness, space. Space for real relationships, for real closeness, for finally seeing the people who were always there. For 60 years, I looked somewhere in the distance at brothers who needed rescuing, and right beside me was Barbara, were the children, were friends. Now I look at them, really look, and I see I'm not alone, I was never alone, I was just looking in the wrong direction. Now I'm looking the right way, and life is beautiful, complicated, imperfect, sometimes painful, but beautiful because it's mine. Take care and find yours.